Dr. Jazz.
Diesel shirt on, that's nice.
To make it more, yeah, sure. You know, used to exist, not anymore, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, I played there very often, actually.
I know. I have the record with Nat. So
yeah,
you know, it's. I thought
it's a contract.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, we used to. Certain bands had a certain contract with Sweet Basil for, I don't know, I think we had 6 weeks a year in there, you know, so we were doing, 2 weeks every season, and 2 weeks at 2 weeks at New Year's.
With Nat?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, man.
2 weeks straight, and those gigs back then used to be, you know, like the Vanguard and the Blue Note still are now, Tuesday through Sunday.
Oh, wow. Man,
yeah.
That's the good old days, right? Almost.
Yeah. I mean, you know, to be able to count on that, and yeah, to be on the scene so regularly.
Yeah.
And a lot of cats would come by. Yeah, it was really, really. It was a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to, you know, some of the older guys like Hal Galper and that generation, and you know, they used to play like this. They could actually have a band for 6 weeks playing all the time and actually perform, you know, and develop the music. Nowadays it's like having a working band. It's almost mission impossible in a way, you know, so it's like
it's difficult, but you get you know, you spend all your energy for one gig sometimes, you know, 1 or 2 gigs, and if you want to organize longer tours, it takes it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
a lot of work, especially now, you know, because the times are so uncertain, and you know, people are not sure what's going to happen 1-2 months from now, and places that, you know, that they were shy about booking before are, you know, are terrified now, and you know, a lot of places going out of business, and people don't want to deal with it.
It's quite.
So I think in Europe, it's still possible. You know, it's at least, you know, if you go very quickly to other countries. You know, so you're not only limited by, you know, kind of one circuit or one one agency or one club or one, you know, like this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's, you know, you live in Austria, which is, Italy is so close, the entire Italian jazz scene, and Germany is like really close out of Germany. Switzerland, it's kind of, it's a good position, you know, to
it's
do
a good
some
spot.
gigs.
Slovenia, Croatia, you know, there's some things happening, especially in the summer. And I mean, look, I say all this as somebody who's not really organizing a lot of things on my own. I'm trying to be ready for when things happen, and even that's been not so easy to get. You know, I wanted to have some new songs for trio and for piano trio, and
oh really? Oh wow.
I had a few rehearsals, and then came one lockdown, then came another lockdown, and my guys are mostly in Vienna, which is about 3 hours away. So, you know, logistically, it's not so cozy, but I would still have it in mind. I got to play it with some other guys. I got to play the music in Bologna recently for a weekend.
Oh really?
With 2 great guys, Stefano Seni and
Adam Stefano. Oh sure,
yeah.
Beautiful.
Played in club. What's it called? Is it called? I can't remember the name. It's Piero Odorici has a club there.
Oh, in Bologna or no?
Yeah, in Bologna.
Oh yeah.
I'll think of it.
I know which one you mean.
He's gonna kill me for this chance to advertise his club, and he's, you know. Oh, Rob.
Exactly. That was it, the chance, and now you blew.
Yeah.
No, but speaking of your music, I wanted to ask you this because I listened to the reunions of that, and
Oh yeah.
there's also like footage from Smalls where you guys played, and it's the arrangements, the music you wrote, it's incredible, tight-knit band, and I wanted to ask you when is the next one? I mean, it sounds like a fantastic band. So what's the plan?
Well, thanks first. And when is the next with them? You mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Since the pandemic hit, and I really didn't go to New York. First of all, the clubs were all closed. I mean, Smalls was amazing. Keeping this thing going just about every night.
The streams.
They went through some real tough times with rules and things like this, and it started to bounce back. But I just didn't go. I didn't go back to New York, and it was also, traveling was not easy, and also I had to kind of decide. My mom's in Florida, my sister's in Brooklyn, and I have to come. My mom's going to be 80, and it's not traveling to Europe, especially right now. So I have to kind of decide where my time. That's my point. I kind of decide where I spend my time. So it took my little boy. I have a little boy, 4 years old, and we went to Florida. And my sister came down there. So New York, it became, especially with the kid now, it became a little less of a priority. As far as I don't know when that could happen again. I mean, if I made that trip to New York, then I'd call the guys and I'd call Spike, and I'm sure we could organize that again. As far as getting everybody together for recording, it's like anything else. You get the gig, do a couple of rehearsals, hopefully do the gig, and then go in the studio. We did the opposite, I think. I think we did the opposite way. We recorded that record. We went in the studio and then had the gig. But you like to have the gig, a little bit of a chance to get them music played for a second. But it worked out great. Those, it's I don't know if there's any background still online. I think the website, the homepage for that band is down now, but we've been friends for, we were good friends for 30 years, most of us. Dave Schumacher, I went to high school with.
Oh, really? And, oh, wow.
Joe Magnarelli.
Yeah, he's
Danny Sadownick is, my best friend in New York. Weldon goes back to my university days, Rutgers, and Lionel Hampton's band. And Jason Brown was, he was the one I knew the least, but he was also for 18 or 20 years or so that, we spent with Jerry Weldon at Klemens in Harlem. Jerry had a Wednesday night. I think he's still, I don't know if the club is still there, but he was doing that till quite recently. And I played the organ there, and that's how I met Jason. And who else did I cover? Everybody. Mike Karn.
Mike Karn. Yeah.
Of course, we started when he was playing mostly saxophone or only saxophone. He picked up the bass where he was teaching, and the rest is history, as they say. But I'm sure he's still quite the great saxophonist. And one of the great bass players on the scene now too. So I don't know. That was a really long answer for the question. I don't know when that can happen. You do these projects, and you're happy that you got one off, and just kind of have, especially as time goes by, you sort of move on to the next things, like everybody does.
Yeah, definitely. No, it sounded such, that band already, like on your first record, you kind of have this nice line of maintaining the tradition, but still pushing it, harmonically and the lines and stuff. So I like that idea, what you do. So that's why I wanted to ask you, because it sounds really, like this kind of Blakeish vibe has it a little, or with the horns, and I really like that sound.
Well, the different bands that I've recorded with, I mean, to be, like a family like that, for so many years, not that we spend every day together, but that certainly contributes to the feeling and the groove. People just enjoy each other for,
Yeah.
as people also, for many years. And yeah, as far as the composition, I mean, I think that when I got to New York, or when I at least got around New York, we were at our high school for a reunion, an alumni concert, and he told me about Rutgers University. And the next day we were on the road, and I went and visited. I met Kenny Barron and Paul Jeffries and people who were teaching at Rutgers and the whole scene there. That was in New Jersey, and we go to New York on the weekends. So I was just the incredible atmosphere and the groove, the energy, the power, and the level of the music was unbelievable. I mean, and I was still pretty young. I was in my 20s, and it just hit me. I heard guys play, like, of course, we had all the records at home, and when I moved to New Jersey to go to Rutgers and hung out with Dave and our other friends there. Ralph Peterson was also a student there. Terrence Blanchard.
Oh, really? Oh, man. Wow.
Yeah. So many great cats at that time. Steve Nelson. It was pretty. It was a pretty rich scene, to say the least. And we stayed up all night listening to jazz radio because they had such a thing. And and the guys all had records, and they were into into swinging, and our favorite records became those. I can mention a bunch, but
oh yeah, please. Really curious.
What I was exposed to at an early age, was the Miles Band with Wynton Kelly and Hank Mobley, and it's one of the first things I started listening to. I mean, my father had records, at home. We had Oscar Peterson and some big band things, and Louis Armstrong, along with a bunch of other styles. We went to rock and crazy musicals, and I mean, I got kind of a wide
exposure.
Wide exposure, exactly, to all different kinds of things. In the 70s, when I was coming up listening to music. So it was a really rich time as far as different kinds of music were concerned. But to go back to what we were listening to, you mentioned Art Blakey, and one of the first records I heard when I went to Rutgers and got on that scene was Free for All.
Oh yeah, man.
From Art Blakey.
Yeah.
And this was, I mean, how this was happening in the studio, anywhere indoors or something for that matter, the energy on the record and the level of playing, and I mean, there's some things on that really foreshadow, rhythm section things, shifting the time a little bit, and this is all happening spontaneously, and in with that, you know what's going on there. And I mean, also so beautiful. Also, Pensativa is on that. The Blakey version of Pensativa is on there, and so it's not only energy, it's no shortness, no lack of beauty as well. And look, the melody, the energy, the swing, the groove was coming from that, and going to New York to hear Barry Harris.
Oh man, yeah.
We say.
Who were the first people you saw?
It sounds corny, but we just lost.
Yeah, one of the great legends.
Yeah, and I didn't have so much contact with him when I was in New York. Of course, went to the Jazz Cultural Theater and some of his classes. I knew him more from on the road. When we wound up on the same festivals or something like this, and also since I've been teaching, coming a little later to the way he organized things, and being able to pass on that information has been really, it's been really helpful. I mean, helpful is an understatement. It really just it pulls everything together, and helps people. Along with transcribing, it helps people, kind of get basics. It's like tap dancing. You learn the steps and you take it somewhere, along with checking out the masters and things like this. But it really helps to create your own language. And one thing I noticed that being here is that the exposure and the absorption of the jazz language, so to speak, is the thing that suffers the most, or that's most lacking.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah.
People know a million great artists and great recordings, and but this talk like this, the younger generation didn't have the opportunity to sit around with record albums and and check out really every song and who's playing, and now they get a file or one video.
Exactly.
And look, I don't want to pick on, and I can't say everybody in that generation, because there are some wonderful students and really getting very very serious and get it and get inside it and know what to do and know where to go for the right stuff. But I'll just flash back, because we were going to hear Barry. I think Barry Harris was the first gig I heard in New York. Barry
Really?
Harris,
Oh man.
Holly,
oh man.
at the Star and Garter, Greenwich Village. I think that was 13th Street.
Wow.
Of course, I was studying with Kenny Barron. I go hear Kenny when as much as I could.
How was it like with Kenny? I mean, you're a teacher now. You've been for the last 20, 30 years, but
yeah.
How was Kenny like towards you as a mentor?
Kenny, what we would do mostly is, well, I would show up and he would be practicing in the room, before I got there. So of course I'd just be late, to the lesson, just listening at the door. We played two pianos together, and he would kind of comment, what I could do better. And I mean, really just, I guess I had an idea. I had been 1 year at the Indiana University playing in a combo and studying improvisation with David Baker.
Oh.
And I think there, well, when I got introduced to Herbie Hancock, and I knew Herbie Hancock when I was in high school, just from Headhunters and that kind of thing. But then there's more, the more mainstream acoustic Herbie Hancock, then I started to figure out, because there were pianists. Well, when I was in Indiana, there was 3 pianists there, probably more, there might be more that I forgot, but Jim Beard, James Beard, he was really into Herbie Hancock. Janice Friedman, who was still very active playing in New York, wonderful pianist. She was also, kind of going in that line, transcribing a lot. Herbie Hancock. Michael Weiss had been there, or was still there, I think, one more year. Oh. And of course, you know where he comes from, and Bud and Barry Harris, and anyway. So I mean, I had an idea, and it wasn't that Kenny really had to say, start me from ABC.
Yeah.
But he'd give me a different tune every week, and we just play it. And he would tell me, voicing sound a little basic, kind of in the middle, or a lot of roots. Why don't you try to brighten them up? Maybe take some of the right hand things, put them in the left hand, and extend them. And just him play all the time was, you're just sitting next to somebody, you're absorbing this, you're absorbing the way he does some melodies, touch a little bit. I love his kind of slow, sort of basic stride, ballad playing or solo playing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing most of the time. And of course, to go hear him, I don't know how he maintained the schedule, but I went to hear him with Freddie Hubbard at Fat Tuesdays, and the next day he'd be at school, and
Yeah, incredible.
yeah, and with his trio, he played with Buster Williams. He also had Sphere, the band Sphere, at the time, and other things that were happening in New York. I mean, it was crazy. When my university time was, we were going, every other weekend or something like that. But George Coleman, Harold Mayburn, John Hicks, and the music around these people, James Mooney. I mean, this was just the hardest swinginest, most high level. I mean, there's all types of. I've mentioned pretty straight ahead people, but that's what that's what I liked, and that's what I still like.
but talking about this New York mid '80s, and how was it for you, like then after finishing Rutgers and entering the New York scene in mid '80s with this immense amount of talent and musicians being there around of your age and of course older also? Who were like the first gigs you got actually, and how was it like to make it there? Do you remember those initial weeks or?
Well, ironically, after I moved to New York, my first gigs started to be in New Brunswick, New Jersey, where Rutgers was.
Oh, okay.
I was driving down with guys from New York. There was a band called the Spirit Ensemble, and that was everything as an African music, and it was led mostly by the drummer Greg Buford, who went to Rutgers also, and became. I mean, I'm not sure where he is now, but he later moved to Brooklyn, and we did some stuff in New York too. We had, and this was with percussion, so it was really like a world music vibe, and I was on the electric piano, and all my influences could kind of be used with that. As far as New York, the first gig, so I moved to New York in '84. I had a chance it was '87 that I got the gig with Lionel Hampton, so that was already like touring in the world. But I wish I could remember all these things. They come into a blur, and I'm not sure where the phases were. There was this Augies, which later became Smoke.
Oh yeah.
And I got some, jam sessions there. Also playing. First time I played organ was up there. Of course, Smalls. I don't remember when Smalls started, but I was around one of the first couple nights of Smalls that it opened. It may have been one of the opening bands. I'm not sure that first there was a little piano bar in the theater district called Sophia's. It was an Italian restaurant where a lot of the young piano players were able to get gigs. Didn't pay very much. I think when I got there, so in the mid '80s, it was it paid like $50 for, and you played all night. You played from 7 to 11:30, because you get the before theater crowd and then the after theater crowd. It was right in the Broadway district, and
that's a good school.
15 years later, we're paying 60 or something. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
But we could go there and we could just play. The host was the maitre d' was a jazz fan, and I think that really helped him get through the night. Just of dealing with a lot of tourists and things like that, and then he could always have his guys, his musicians, and he was a sweet guy, Mike. So Sophia's, and there was Star Cafe. I remember jam sessions. You can't imagine who was playing there. Tony Scott and Harold White and Albert Daly, one of the great pianists.
Oh, really? Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was a heavy scene, Star Cafe, and there was another place, man. This guy Ralph owned it. I wish now I can't. it was right near the Star Cafe, but a lot of cats were playing there. The Harper brothers, Philip and Winard, Benny Green.
Oh,
We made a little scene there. Eventually, I got my own steady gig, with this trio that kind of formed the basic guys that formed my first record album.
yeah.
Billy Drummond, Peter Washington was not on my steady gig, although I'm pretty sure he joined us a couple times. But it was John Weber,
Mm-hmm.
Billy Drummond, Ben Wolf a lot. So Ben
really?
and I,
Oh, wow.
yeah, we kind of started out, that was the kind of the beginning. We went to get a duo gig, and the restaurant hired us, and we wound up, it expanded into a trio, and I added percussion. So Danny, it was Billy Drummond and Danny.
Oh,
And
man.
Danny made it most of the time when drummers couldn't make it. Other drummers came to town. Guys from Europe, that I met on tour.
Yeah.
I would have them in, and yeah, I think that's and Ben and I, it's kind of funny. Ben and I, we played at Sophia's. We played, we would dress up in our tuxedos, and we go audition. We say we'll come by in the afternoon, and we go. And they never saw, people just come into audition in a restaurant, don't usually wear tuxedos, but we came in there, looking like we knew something. And, we played great together. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, man.
And
yeah.
I think
Beautiful.
people felt that, so we wound up getting a gig. We got this gig that turned into more of a, trio quartet gig, and a duo gig down the street, and they were both steady gigs. Nobody had, it was really, it was like every weekend.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
And guys, the one place where we had a little bit bigger band was called Lola's, and people started to hear about it, and the horn players would come by and sit in. And it's the host, the maitre d' there, hostess or whatever you want to call her, manager, whose nickname was Lola. She would always invite whoever sat in, to eat dinner with us. It was a really nice restaurant. And so more and more cats used to come by because they know we're going to eat together. And the playing was fun, of course. And Vincent Herring came by one day to sit in with us, and then he mentioned that Nat Adderley was looking for a piano player, or that I would be good for that gig. We'd also played in Lionel Hampton's band, me and Vincent. And yeah, so. I have more stories about how I met Nat and everything, but
I want to ask you about these two experiences.
That's how it went. Yeah, which it came from this kind of steady gig, which evolved from doing different gigs all over. And I also had a chance in that time. Not sure exactly when. Maybe after Lionel Hampton, or I don't know. I worked with two great singers, with Dakota Staten and with Little Jimmy Scott, and so those also have to kind of mention those. And along with having my own band and work out my own arrangements, and
wow, yeah,
and all that influence and inspiration came from all those years of hearing the best cats in
the greats.
in
Yeah,
the world.
I wanted to ask you about Lionel. How did the gig with Lionel happen, actually, and how was it for you, like as a 24, 25-year-old jazz kid to like going all around the world, and how was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was amazing. Paul Jeffrey was our band director and arranging teacher at Rutgers, and Paul was kind of a saxophone champion. He used to all the great solos for saxophone section, because he was obviously the saxophone teacher as well at Rutgers. And, we had guest artists play with the big band, and he would orchestrate everybody's solo. Freddie Hubbard, George Coleman, not George Coleman, John Coltrane with George Coleman, all kinds of artists. And he would orchestrate a lot of things for saxophone, and for the section, and that became kind of a signature of his. He'd write all the arrangements by hand. We even guys would stay up all night at his house copying, by hand. It was before the big computer.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So that was anyway. Paul had played with Lionel Hampton, not only of course many others with Monk and many others as well, and he would place. He had the chance to place, his saxophone students in the Lionel Hampton band, and the chance came up for the piano. Somehow he heard there was a piano vacancy, or I don't know, but the story was kind of like Johnny O'Neill was actually playing in the band, and I don't know. This is so important to tell, or even. Anyhow, it seemed like Johnny O'Neill was and still is one of the great pianists, and back then he had really, really amazing chops, like Oscar Peterson type chops, and I don't know, there was a little rumor that he was getting more applause than Gates, than Lionel Hampton or something. Who knows what the reasons are.
Oh, sure, man. Yes.
But anyway, the call came to Paul, and Paul said, I can set this up for you. Go meet him. And that's what happened. I went to Lionel Hampton's apartment near Lincoln Center, and he answered the door in his bathrobe and slippers, pajamas. This is a guy you see always in the tux, like perfect on the stage. And I said, okay. It happened to me another time with Dakota Staton. Dakota Staton's amazing, with his hair like this.
Yeah, like
makeup, and just looked the same, for 100 years. Real, show business lady. And then she answered the door in her, house coat, and, her hair was down, and it was, she was feeding, she was cooking she was making, she was cooking grits for the cats, grits and bacon for the cats outside.
Oh, man.
That's what she was doing. You can't, this is
beautiful.
And her apartment was like out of a museum, She said, she told me, I'm an interior designer, I said, yeah. Because every room had a different theme. It would look like from space, and this one had gold things. And the cat was, like this, big as she was. I don't know. Anyhow, that's another story. But there's two great stars, answering the door in their pajamas, basically, and so you can't make this up.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Anyhow, he invited me in. He plays the piano. We played I don't know what we played together. He was writing a tune for George Bush. I think the first George Bush, and for his, I don't know. And we had played this, and he was showing me the melody. He said, yeah. He's playing his two fingers on the piano. He played some vibes, and somehow the manager got in touch with me. It was the beginning of a year. The first gig they called me for I was talking about being in your pajamas. I was just home, and they called me and said, yeah, Lionel wants to needs you in Paris. I was in Queens in my apartment. Needs you in Paris. I said, when? He said, now. I said, I don't even have a passport. They said, don't worry about it. It's taken care of. Just go down there. Don't even wait in a line. Just go, whatever. Just go up to the window. And that's what happened, basically. All these people waiting like 3-4 hours. I walk in front of the line, and they give me the passport. It's a little exaggerated, a little fast. But then the next thing I know, I'm on a business class seat. Somebody's bringing me champagne, and I have this. I remember exactly what I was listening to. I was listening actually to this gospel music song from the Winans. It was my favorite song at the time, and I listened to that over and over again. So I had that in my cassette Walkman, of course.
With a champagne glass.
With a champagne glass, and was not the first, was not the last. I just felt like
sure.
So in luxury, then I got there, and I thought, yeah, someone's going to pick me up, but nobody was there. Nobody was there at the airport to pick me up. So I called, and they said, yeah, take this and this bus, and yeah, so I got there, and the next thing I know, I'm in a cafe in Paris with the guys, that I know. Having a coffee, and it was that was at the Meridian Hotel, 2 weeks at the Meridian Hotel. You had your room. In the States, you had to share a room with somebody. I don't know why this was. In Europe, you got your own room. And there I was in the Meridian Hotel in Paris, my own room, all day long to go around Paris and all night long to play the gig. Take the elevator to the gig, and
that's incredible. Yeah,
that was a year of touring and a little bit of recording in the States and Europe and Japan, and it didn't have the best ending, because somebody called. We did a record in the studio, and somebody called the union. We weren't getting paid fairly or something like that. And I don't know. I kind of joined the guys that were sort of fighting, to get there was one picture of all of us together, and I don't know how I got picked out, or somehow got blamed, or I was suspected that I started the whole thing, or I don't know. I don't want to give myself so much credit, but I did anyway. I did want to show some support, and there's some other funny stories that go along with it, but it was a year. It kind of ended on that note, where I got fired because of those things that were happening. I don't know if I was the only one, but I mean, look, people came and went.
Sure.
Not so frequently, but there were guys in the band for many, many years.
Yeah, but I mean, for you, it was in a way, a good one, because that's how Nat then happened, right? In a way, I guess. Or...
Yeah, sure. No, that's part of the progression, so to speak.
But
I mean, it was, as far as the music, I got to write an arrangement or one or two arrangements for the band, just to play with these great guys and tour all over the world. Music was fun, playing these classic hits, and also, with all the guest artists that came play with us, Dizzy Gillespie, Jimmy Heath.
Oh, really? Oh, man.
Yeah, Bill Cosby would come and hang around. That was, before certain...
Yeah, sure. Sure.
I mean, what are you gonna do? He was my hero.
Oh, sure. I mean, I remember him, the Cosby Show, man.
Comedy-wise, before that, in the 60s, 70s, and from television, and I mean, you hear things like this. It's difficult. Sometimes it's really difficult to separate art from reality.
Yeah.
And, that's another interview.
But no, Rob, I wanted to ask you,
preferably with somebody more qualified to talk about
it. Not with me. I'll not dig.
No, not with me.
Okay, not with me also. Well, no, you mentioned Vincent Herring kind of got you the connection to Nat, and you remember the first time you played with Nat, and we're talking about one of the greats, Work Song and the sextet, Jimmy Cobb, Sonny Fortune. I mean, talk about Walter Booker, the greats from the 60s and 70s. How was it like for you? Just for me, imagining being in the room and looking around, and you would see Kind of Blue Drummer and Walter Booker there and Sonny Fortune. How was that experience like for you? I mean,
I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, starting out, it started actually before I even said hello to Nat. Vincent told me to go to Bradley's. That was another scene, that was happening all the time. It was amazing as far as piano players. But the Vincent told me to go there. It was a memorial service for Orrin Keepnew's wife, the producer. She had passed away, and there was going to be a memorial gathering at Bradley's, and I should go there, and Nat's going to be there and meet. So I go down there in the afternoon. It was a weekend afternoon, I think, or early evening, and they let me in, and the first two people I see at the bar are Randy Weston and Sonny Rollins.
Ooh, oh man, okay.
And these are these two are two of the biggest guys you ever see. They're like two oak trees, at the bar, and I was terrified immediately. I said, "Oh shit!" And from there, I mean, it went on from there. Norman Simmons, Mulgrew Miller, on and on and on. Then in the back, Jimmy Cobb, Walter Booker, and Nat Adderley are sitting right in front of the piano. There was a little round table. And I went to Nat and I said, hey, Vincent told me to come say hi to you, to come and meet you. And he said, oh, yeah, you're Rob. And he reached in his pocket and he gives me an airplane ticket. And he says, hey, Vincent, you're okay. And we got a gig, blah, 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 blah. And, I'm going to hang out a little bit. Can you take me to the airport? Because I got to go back to Florida. And that's what, we hung around. We heard great music, and then it's time to go. I met Jimmy and Walter at the same time, but, didn't talk to them so much. I had met most of them in Larry Willis when they played in Chicago at the Jazz Showcase, the later version of the Jazz Showcase at the Blackstone Hotel. And at least had said a few words to all of them, Sonny too. But then, I drove Nat to the airport, and I tried to, talk about records he was on and records he wasn't on, the Something Else,
Oh, yeah.
That was one of his stories, that Cannonball grabbed his horn to go make a record date, and Nat, went to take his trumpet, and he said, no, Cannonball said, no, you're not on this one.
Oh, man.
Miles. And, I don't know, I was trying to talk my best, I was nervous and amazed, and it was just so much fun. I mean, he was that band was, two young guys and three old guys, so to speak, but sometimes it was like the old guys were the young guys and we were the old guys, because it was so much fun. It was like traveling with a family, traveling with, three fathers or grandfathers, and, it's just whatever happens with families happen on the road too, little insignificant arguments sometimes, but they were mostly, really about discussions, kind of about music. I know Nat and Vincent used to get into it, and
did the guys talk about
not only about music, about old things and new things, even like about architecture or decoration. I mean, look, you're with each other all day long. And back then we had a bus, we had a huge tour bus, like the rock bands had, 5 guys on this huge bus and 8 beds and a little lounge in the back. I mean, yeah, it was kind of like, touring in style, but it was very intimate. And I said little arguments, but maybe it's, it was 10 years, I can think of twice.
That's a long one. Yeah, that's a long one still.
I think of twice that it was even a little bit negative, vibe or something like that. But I mean, it's just like any people, you spend that much time together, you might disagree.
Yeah, sure. How was the first gig like?
The first gig,
were you nervous or?
That was that gig that I got the plane ticket for. I flew to Lakeland, Florida, and or flew to Orlando and then drove. And so we had some little workshop, or clinic in the afternoon for students. It was at Florida Southern College. And there was a guy there, director of music, Larry Burke. He was still in touch sometimes. It was called the Child of the Sun Jazz Festival, which kind of Nat, founded with that school. And they would go every year, in the spring, and I think it was the spring. And anyway, we got there and we played this little thing in the afternoon. We were just playing for the students. I think that I played Old Folks or something, this ballad.
Yeah.
I think Ernie Watts was the guest artist.
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
I remember Ernie Watts, telling Jimmy what he needed, on a certain song, and I couldn't believe that Ernie Watts was telling Jimmy Cobb.
Jimmy Cobb, yeah, exactly.
About the drums, and you know what? I mean, I'll just put it out there. Actually, most of my friends know the story, but we were doing he had a song in the kind of a Coltrane vibe. Coltrane had many vibes, but it was a classic quartet vibe. So he actually said, he actually said if Jimmy couldn't play that Elvin thing, you know?
Oh man, oh shit.
Not challenging it. He was totally friendly, totally.
Yeah.
It was all kind of out of love. He didn't even, kind of like that Elvin thing, And I said, "Well, you tell Jimmy Cobb to play that Elvin thing. This is it's surreal for me, I'm like, wait a minute. So okay, good. Now this is all the gossip, but that actually happened, and so that this is on the way to the first gig, and Jimmy is very, I can't. I remember that situation. I remember that moment. I don't remember exactly Jimmy's face, because I was probably, trying to turn away. But I remember not a lot of communication with Jimmy. He was very, kind of quiet, reserved. Until you get to know him, then he loves to laugh, and that became much more comfortable. But yeah, at first, all the Wynton Kelly Trio records.
Yeah, man. Come on, that's
kind of blew. Forget about it. It was, I didn't want to look at him. I didn't know what to do, so I just played. And we got on stage, and he called the first tune. Man, I remember the first tune. We played Unit 7. We played.
Oh yeah, wow.
Something, Big P or something like that.
Oh yeah,
and then, So I remember playing and getting into it. Felt good, I've been listening to Jimmy Cobb for years already, so I kind of had that feeling, to hit with him, different
as if you played with him, yeah.
With Wynton, when Wynton Kelly, kind of hit. They had different places to hit with comping, and a lot of times on beat 4, and they had their little hits, their ensemble, their tutti, kind of what do you call that? Little hits they did together, that became later signatures with Miles and other kind of things. At one point I was playing, and I looked up, and Jimmy Cobb looked right at me, and I remember again, oh shit, and I went back down. I went back down. I was like, no, I'm not gonna look at him again.
That's
in the
beautiful.
end, we all, we all became good friends, and more than just music. Jimmy had 2 young daughters at the time, and they were always around, and he had to watch them sometimes, and they came to my house or my apartment and stayed with me a little bit once. Yeah, it was,
amazing.
And then we were going to this concert every year, and that was where Nat lived. So all Nat's friends, all the musicians, Nat's son, Nat Adderley Jr., also one of the great musicians.
Amazing.
And my parents, after the first gig, my parents were there, and they were sitting out on Nat's terrace, overlooking this little lake behind his house. And he actually asked my mom. It was like, it was like the old school when someone wants to get married or get music lessons. They have to go to the parents, or And he said, I want to take your son on the road.
Oh yeah, like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I? It's okay. My mom said, yeah, take him. Take him.
It's beautiful.
My father loved to be there because there was people that, interesting people to talk to, and he loved the music, and they would come to New York. They were living in Florida at the time too, so not far from that, a couple hours from that. But they would come to New York all the time when we played, and it was a really rich scene.
Yeah.
So musically, of course, everybody knows the repertoire, and got to write some songs with.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. Rob's tune and Warzone, and you wrote some tunes for the band. How did that happen? Actually, that you started writing tunes also. Like, did Nat say that to you, or did it happen naturally?
I don't know if Nat ever really said we need a song. One time he made it, said, yeah, let's write one together. I have an idea, and then we helped finish it. I think there was a Little Ann or something was a ballad. And about my tunes, I had tunes. I didn't write them
specifically.
One I wrote called Papa Nat. We recorded that, I think. Yeah, we recorded it later for a Japanese label. And yeah, so I mean, I just had tunes, and of course, that was my style, So I had them, and if we had a record date or something, especially, we didn't necessarily. We played a couple of them. We played regularly all the time. One called Mo's Theme. Vincent really liked that one. And yeah, and he would feature me. I got the trio feature or solo feature almost every night.
Yeah.
Or just duo. Like I wrote one, a dedication to Larry Willis, Slow Dance for Lara Will, and me and Walter Booker would play that duo almost.
Oh man, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, it was it wasn't necessarily on purpose, but sometimes you needed tunes, and sometimes they would go in the book, so to speak, or sometimes it was just for one thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, Rob, not to, I know you have to teach, so not to take too much of your time.
I've always been.
But I just wanted to ask you one more thing. You have so many stories, and I wanted to ask you about Better Times. The debut for Crisscross, and the band is killing. We mentioned Peter Washington and Billy Drummond and all these guys, Steve Wilson, and how did that gig happen? I mean, that album, because even now, if you put it on, it's like, man, it's swinging its ass off. It's incredible, and the tunes and everything, the arrangements, and how was it for you, like making that record with all those guys? Did you feel like you were ready, or even now being a band leader, this whole band leading thing?
Feeling ready? I don't know when that happens. But Jerry Teekins, somehow, I was on the scene, and Jerry Teekins was he was recording the new young guys all the time, and it could have been Peter Washington. I might get this wrong, and I apologize, to whoever it really was. Somebody mentioned me to Jerry, and I think it was because of, the Nat Adderley thing that I even, got mentioned at all or got considered. So, it came time to do it. And, I got it together. I wrote the arrangements and wrote the tunes, and I picked them out, and it wasn't any, I didn't have to go through any process. I just brought my stuff. It's not that Jerry had to prove any songs or anything like this. I just got enough material for the record. And it actually happened in 2 sessions. The first session didn't work out so great, but I think we kept part of it. We kept one song from then, and then became like, we said, we're going to do it again when it's really tight and together. And that's when the band with Eddie Henderson, Steve. Yeah, it was incredible. It couldn't have been some more perfect guys. And Billy and Peter and Danny Sadownick as the rhythm section. Billy and Peter always had a sound.
Yeah, Billy is amazing, man. Yeah. And Peter also, of course.
And that was just the right fit. I did another record with them too for a Japanese label later. It's not around anymore. Records. Oh. It was called The Shadow of Your Smile. Special guest Dina DeRose, Danny, Peter, me, and Billy.
Oh man, you have to send me this one, please.
Yeah, I could send you that.
Oh, please.
I could send you that. At least I think I have 1 or 2 copies.
Oh no, just digital. If you have digital,
or you have to call my mom. She has all.
Okay.
What and wait, you said about well, that's how it came about. So it didn't happen right away, but then got the got the right session to happen, and then we did it, and man, I remember celebrating with Peter and Billy at Bradley's afterwards, and, just to be around those guys, you know, and have a couple of drinks after a record date. And guys, you know, in New York, it's kind of special, man. You know, people call you like after you do a project or after you do a record or something. People call you and they say, you know, thanks, man. I had a great time, and you know, a young guy. We were all pretty young at the time, so you know, we might have been sort of the same age region, but still, they were.
A certain camaraderie between the guys.
It was some camaraderie there, some respect, and you know that guys would come and just rehearse and only play your stuff. You know what I mean, and my stuff. And you know they have those type of guys around who could, you know, just do it. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't, you know, for a record date, jazz record date, it's not about a lot of rehearsals. Maybe one rehearsal, and you know,
Chris Cross was always like that. Chris Cross was like, you know, well, we have 4 hours, guys. Okay, let's hit it.
Yeah, you know, it's not like you know, a week and overdubs and that kind of thing. Nothing. But yeah, it was a very, very rich time.
Yeah.
And a lot of the great guys that are not with us anymore were still with us.
Yeah.
And I'm really fortunate, really, really lucky. I mean, I'm away in Austria, and little, you know, I wouldn't say isolated. There's so great people to play with here, and I've done a lot of great projects since I've been here, and continue. But yeah, from New York, you know, it's a little bit bittersweet. You know, to be so far away, and you know, having had that and those memories and that, you know, that rich scene, you know, that incomparable experience.
Yeah, especially then, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, especially then, and you bring it. I mean, there's no shortage of great players now. That's for sure.
But the scene-wise, definitely was different. Well, the way you know, how I hear it from you guys or even the older generation, you know, it was way more opportunities to play or.
Oh yeah, sure. And way more, you know, of these steady gigs, these week-long gigs, you know, where you could, you know, count on hearing the, you know, best players of the world. Now the best players in the world are
here.
This generation that's still here. Yeah, you know.
Exactly.
And so it's fine. Absolutely fine. I'm not there. I hear different opinions of how things are going, and what I see is, you know, the broadcasts and the streams from Smalls, and I just see this.
Me too.
You know, and what people did during the Corona, during the lockdowns and things. You know, Emmett Cohen and.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
And, you know, I know that Rick Margitz, the saxophone player, was putting lessons online, and you know, it became a little bit different scene, especially for me because I wasn't there. But now, you know, New York is still happening in a way, not like it was. But for me, I don't have thousands of hours to check out what's going on there. But the things that I see for me are still amazing inspiration. You know, I watched the Steve Nelson's band. I have my favorite bands. You know,
and Smalls, I watched that. Man, that was killing.
Steve Nelson is, you know, he's there regularly with a regular band for years now, and Victor Lewis also has an amazing band with Josh Evans and Kikoski sometimes. And I mean, that's my New York inspiration.
Yeah.
My live living New York inspiration now. And you know, whatever I can manage here, and try to bring some of that to the students.
Yeah, that's important.
Don't have the same exposure opportunity.
Yeah. Cool. Cool, Rob. I will not bother you so that you can relax a little bit before the teaching comes.
No, it was early enough. Now I have time. I had time before and time after. It's cool.
Yeah, you can have a coffee now. So.
Thanks.
So thanks for sharing some of these stories, man. I appreciate it. So.
I really appreciate that you found me, and that I saw. I mean, you know, you sent me the list of guys, and I watched Peter's interview a little bit, Peter Bernstein.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I love doing this. you know, I'm a musician, but I'm such a jazz geek. You know, I just read these encyclopedias all the time, and you know, for years, and listen, you know, booklets and stuff. I just love hearing this stuff. For me, that's what jazz is all about. This, you know, this small stories. You know, I like
the stories, and you know, to communicate things that happen to that younger musicians will never have a chance to meet these guys. And,
exactly. Yeah. So it's nice to hear that.
A little link.
Yeah. Exactly.
The missing link.
The missing links. Yeah, but it's true. Come on. Yeah, it's true. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I appreciate it, and appreciate what you've done. You know, it's another thing in this you know, in this pandemic time, you know, that you put together this catalog. Also, you know, that's a catalog too, man. It's a music catalog. It's a music catalog.
I became obsessed now. It's like it's like a personal quest for me, like, you know, to do this. Like, there's so many amazing musicians out there, and each one with their own story, and it's just incredible.
It's a source, you know, especially for the more serious music students and people, just to wait, I had it in my head what I wanted to say, but just to get a real taste of the history. And, you know, it's another kind of they're documentaries, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah, basically,
documenting the scene from all different kinds of perspectives, and it's a wonderful thing. So I appreciate it too. Really.
It's jazz history, man. You know, like, let's say I've talked with Magnarelli, you know, the bass player, and we played quite some in New York years ago, and I told him, like, when he did this interview, I was like asking him about what he did in '85 with Tim Byrne, let's say, or and then we were both like, wait a second, that's like 35 years ago. That's like, you know, in '85 talking about music in 1950. So you know, and for me it still feels like, if I mention '93, it's like, well, it's kind of now, but then it's like, wait a second, that's like 30 years ago, you know, and it feels weird.
I know exactly what you mean. I feel the same way. You know, when people talk about, it comes in different. It comes to you in different forms. You know, someone will say, you know, they might not only know like the remake of a certain R&B tune, or so, you know, like you know, that was actually recorded, you know, in the 80s or 70s even. And so then I think, then by the time it's all screwed up somehow, and people talk about 90, and I think, oh yeah, 90, you know, it still feels like, but like you said, it's 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And they say, you know, kids, you know, students, whatever, they say back in the 90s, you know, I said, back in the 90s, wait a minute, you mean 1890s, or what do you mean?
Exactly. Funny, yeah. But true, yeah.
90s, it's already over.
Well,
silly to say that, but you know what I
mean.
But
I know what you mean. Like, half of my students were born in the 2000s.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess, for them it's back in the 90s. They were not even born.
Back in the, right, it's before they were born. It's before their time.
Makes sense, you know. I guess so. Yeah. Funny.
Yeah, I have fun joke about it all the time. back in the 1920s, you know, when I was in New York and that kind of stuff.
I love the shirt, by the way. Cool shirt.
Oh, thanks.
Love this record. Oh man, love the record. One of the best records.
That's another interview, I guess, just about, you know, different directions that I appreciated, different, you know, because this was also part of my time in New York, just like following the Fort Apache band around or Tony Williams band was around, trying to follow Michelle's band around. Also, Danny Sadownick was the percussionist in the band, and there was a lot of underground, you know, word of mouth concerts and things that you just heard about if you knew people in the band. Man,
we have to catch a beer one day and.
I mean, you can go on forever about, you know, then there's different scenes, you know.
Oh, sure.
In New York, Latin music and you know, soul music and all the musicians that cross over between those worlds.
That's incredible.
You know, amazingly, yeah. One of the first bands I used to go hear all the time was the Magnum Band. It's the Haitian funk band, Haitian dance band. You know, Ned Gould used to play the saxophone.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In this horn section, and his wife, they were just recently married or recently together, and so she would go with him to the gigs, and I would dance with her, you know, because she was alone there, and then I just, you know, I just hang out and hear Ned. So it's a Haitian band, Haitian funk band at SOBs, you know.
Incredible.
And you know, he's the father of Charles and of the as a pianist also.
Oh, Victor. Yeah, Victor.
Not Victor. No.
Gould.
Yeah,
Fuck.
Charles and
No, he's over.
It's terrible. It's terrible. My memory. But anyway, Charles is the drummer with Steve Nelson. A really wonderful drummer. Ned is one of the great saxophonists. Anyhow, I'm just saying, you know, about you know what I mean. About the different things. We used to go to the Village Gate and hear the salsa every Monday. And then everything else in between. The
culture and music exposure there. I remember the first time I went. It's like incredible.
Groups,
Exactly.
Organ bands in Harlem and you know, Jack McDuff, George Benson.
Oh yeah. Man, it's
another 6 interviews there.
Exactly, definitely.
We get together, man.
Yeah, but thanks, Rob. Thanks so much.
Jazz.